You didn't betray my heart. You betrayed my name.
The moment my boss Derek made that joke at the company Christmas party, I knew my marriage was over. Not because of what he said, but because of how my wife Nadia laughed. "Hey, everyone!" Derek's voice boomed across the dimly lit banquet hall of the Riverside Hotel. The cheap disco ball cast fractured light across faces, flushed with booze and forced holiday cheer. "Tomorrow, Tom's wife is going on vacation with me or he's fired." The crowd of logistics company employees and their spouses erupted in laughter, but Nadia's laugh cut through the noise like a rusty blade. She threw her head back, her perfectly styled blonde hair catching the light, and said, "I agree." More laughter. Someone wolf whistled. I stood there in my off-the-rack suit, watching my wife of 15 years perform for these people like some desperate actress auditioning for a role she'd never get. "Just kidding, buddy." Derek slapped my shoulder hard enough to spill my beer. "You know I love you like a brother, Tom." That's when something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like ice on a frozen pond, waiting for the right pressure to shatter completely. I forced a smile and excused myself to the men's room. In the fluorescent lit mirror, I saw what everyone else saw. Tom Bradley, 42 years old, middle management at Midwest Logistics, the guy who fixed other people's problems and never made waves. The reliable one. The safe choice. The punchline. But as I splashed cold water on my face, I remembered something I'd found 3 weeks earlier, while looking for our tax documents in Nadia's home office. A folder marked performance reviews that contained something much more interesting than her annual evaluations. Inside were printed emails between Nadia and her co-workers at Sterling PR, where she worked as an account executive. Brutal character assassinations of everyone she worked with. Sarah from accounting was a cow who probably eats her lunch in the bathroom. Mike from creative was gay as a rainbow parade, but too pathetic to admit it. Her boss, Jennifer, was a dried-up witch who peaked in college. But the real treasure was a chain of messages between Nadia and her best friend, Sonia Matthews, who worked at the same firm. Messages about me. "Tom's so boring I could scream. Last night he wanted to watch the History Channel. The History Channel." I told him I had a headache and locked myself in the bedroom with a bottle of wine and my vibrator. At least he pays the bills. My ex couldn't even do that. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I just disappeared. Would he even notice, or would he just assume I was working late forever? I'd photographed every page with my phone. At the time, I told myself I was just hurt, that I'd confront her eventually, that we'd work through it like adults. But standing in that bathroom, listening to the muffled sounds of people laughing at Derek's jokes, I realized I had something better than hurt feelings. I had ammunition. When I returned to the party, I walked straight to the hotel's business center. For $5, I printed 47 pages of Nadia's greatest hits. Her savage reviews of coworkers, her complaints about our marriage, her detailed descriptions of her sexual fantasies about various celebrities, and, the crown jewel, her messages with Sonia planning to accidentally run into Derek at his favorite bar. I walked back into the banquet hall with a stack of papers and a smile that probably looked insane. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out, my voice carrying over the Christmas music, "I have some party favors." The room quieted as I began handing out the papers. My wife Nadia is so thoughtful. She wanted to share her honest opinions about all of you with everyone here tonight. I watched faces change as people read. Sarah from accounting's eyes widened. Mike from creative went pale. Jennifer, Nadia's boss, who happened to be here as Derek's date, looked like she'd swallowed glass. "Tom, what are you doing?" Nadia hissed, grabbing my arm. I shook her off gently and handed out the last page to Derek. This one was different. I'd created it myself on the hotel computer. It simply read, "We are getting divorced. Merry Christmas. Tom Bradley." The silence stretched like a held breath. Then the whispers started. Then the stares. Then Jennifer stood up, her face flushed with anger. "Nadia, is this real?" she demanded, holding up a page. "Did you really call me a dried-up witch?" That was taken out of context." "What context makes this okay?" Sarah joined in, her voice shaking. "You said I eat lunch in the bathroom because I'm fat?" The room erupted. Not in laughter this time, but in angry voices and shocked gasps. I stood in the center of it all, watching my wife's carefully constructed social network collapse in real time. Derek pulled me aside, his face serious for once. "Jesus, Tom, I'm sorry about the joke. I didn't know things were this bad between you two. Look, as an apology, you're getting that promotion we talked about. Senior logistics coordinator, corner office, company car. The works. I looked at him, really looked at him. Derek Hartman, my boss for 3 years, my supposed friend, the man who'd been planning secret meetings with my wife. He had no idea I knew about those messages with Sonia. Thanks, Derek. I appreciate that. I'll take your office and your parking spot too. His smile faltered slightly. Well, I don't know about my office. I do. I patted his shoulder the same way he'd patted mine earlier. See you Monday, buddy. As I walked toward the exit, I could hear Nadia behind me, trying to explain, trying to salvage something from the wreckage. But it was too late. In a town like Millbrook, gossip traveled faster than the speed of light, and by morning, everyone would know that Nadia Bradley was exactly the kind of person who smiled to your face and sharpened her knives behind your back. The December air hit me like a slap as I stepped outside, but I was smiling. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt alive. Monday morning brought consequences faster than I'd expected. I arrived at Midwest Logistics to find Derek's corner office being cleaned out by maintenance. True to his word, he was giving me the promotion, though I suspected it had more to do with damage control than genuine remorse. Tom, Derek appeared beside me, looking haggard. Can we talk? We walked to what would soon be my office. Derek closed the door and ran his hands through his hair. Look, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Is there anything else? Any other surprises I should know about? I leaned against the window, looking out at the gray December morning. What do you mean? I mean, did Nadia say anything about me in those emails? There it was, the question I'd been waiting for. Derek was worried because he knew he'd been mentioned. He just didn't know how much I knew. Why would she mention you? I don't know, We've worked some events together, you know? PR and logistics. We cross paths sometimes. I wouldn't want there to be any misunderstandings. I studied his face. Derek was handsome in that generic corporate way. Square jaw, expensive haircut, teeth too white to be natural. The kind of man who probably peaked in college and spent the rest of his life trying to recapture that feeling of being important. I'm sure if there was anything worth mentioning, it would have been in those printouts, I said finally. Relief washed over his features. Good, that's good. So we're okay? You and me? We're fine, Derek, just fine. After he left, I settled into my new office and called my lawyer, Pete Kowalski. Pete and I had grown up together in Millbrook, played high school football together, even dated the same girl junior year. He was one of the few people in town I trusted completely. Jesus Christ, Tom, Pete said when I explained the situation. The whole town's talking about Saturday night. Nadia's already called me twice asking if I'll represent her in the divorce. What did you tell her? That I had a conflict of interest. Which I do. You're buying me lunch today and telling me everything. We met at Murphy's Diner, a place that hadn't changed since the 1980s. Red vinyl booths, checkered floor, coffee that could strip paint. The kind of place where secrets went to die. So what's your endgame here? Pete asked, cutting into his meatloaf. You want to take her to the cleaners? I want her to understand what it feels like to be humiliated. To have people laugh at you behind your back. To realize that actions have consequences. Pete nodded slowly. Okay, I can work with that. But Tom, you need to be smart about this. Don't do anything stupid. Don't give her ammunition to use against you. Define stupid. Don't follow her around. Don't key her car. Don't show up at her work. Don't post about her on social media. And for God's sake, don't do anything that could be construed as threatening. I smiled. I'm not going to threaten anyone, Pete. I'm just going to tell the truth. That afternoon, I stopped by Mickey's boxing gym on the south side of town. I've been training there twice a week for the past 5 years, ever since my doctor told me I needed to find a way to manage stress that didn't involve beer and late-night television. Mickey Torino was 70 years old and built like a fire hydrant. He trained professional fighters back in the day, and his gym walls were covered with faded photographs of men with broken noses and championship belts. Heard about your party trick, Mickey said as I wrapped my hands. Ballsy move. You think it was stupid? I think it was overdue. Your wife's been running her mouth around town for years. About time someone called her on it. I spent an hour working the heavy bag, letting my frustrations flow through my fists. The rhythmic thudding was therapeutic, each punch a small release of the anger I'd been carrying. You know, Mickey said as I cooled down, I heard something interesting at the barbershop yesterday. What's that? Seems your wife's been seen around town with that boss of yours. Coffee dates, lunch meetings. Might be nothing, but... But? Mickey shrugged. In my experience, when a woman starts having secret meetings with another man, it ain't about business. I already knew about Derek, of course, but hearing it confirmed by someone else felt like validation. I wasn't paranoid or imagining things. My instincts had been right. That evening, I came home to find Nadia waiting for me in the living room. She'd been crying. Her makeup was smudged and her eyes were red. "We need to talk," she said. "I'm listening. What you did Saturday night was cruel and humiliating. Those were private conversations, Tom. Private thoughts. About our friends, about our marriage, about me." She stood up, pacing to the window. "I was venting, okay? Everyone vents. It doesn't mean anything. It means you think I'm boring. It means you fantasize about other men. It means you've been planning to cheat on me with Derek." She spun around, her face flushing. "I never cheated on you. Yet. This is insane. You're acting like some kind of psychopath." I sat down in my recliner, the same chair I'd been sitting in for 10 years, watching the same television, living the same predictable life that had apparently driven my wife to fantasize about escape. I'm acting like someone who finally knows the truth about his marriage. So what now? You're going to punish me forever? Make me pay for some stupid emails? I'm going to get divorced, Nadia. That's what people do when they discover their spouse has no respect for them. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a voice I barely recognized, she said, "Fine. But if you think you're going to destroy my life and walk away clean, you're wrong. I know things about you too, Tom. Things that could hurt you." "Like what?" She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Like the fact that you've been skimming money from the company for years. Little amounts, nothing anyone would notice, but it adds up." I felt ice in my veins. "I've never stolen anything. Haven't you? Those expense reports you pad? The mileage you claim for trips you never took? The office supplies that somehow end up in our house? It might not be grand theft, but it's enough to get you fired, maybe even prosecuted." She was right, of course. Over the years, I'd bent the rules here and there, nothing major, nothing that hurt anyone, but enough to cause problems if someone wanted to make an issue of it. "So this is how it's going to be?" I asked. "This is how you made it, Tom. You fired the first shot Saturday night. Don't blame me for firing back." After she went upstairs, I sat in the dark living room thinking. Nadia was smarter than I'd given her credit for. She'd just shown me that she was willing to fight dirty, which meant I needed to be ready for war. I picked up my phone and sent a text to an old friend. "Frank, it's Tom Bradley. I need a favor." Frank Morrison and I had served in the Army together 20 years ago. He'd stayed in for a full career, retiring as a master sergeant, and now ran a small private investigation business out of his basement. If anyone could help me dig up dirt on Nadia and Derek, it was Frank. His response came back within minutes. "Whatever you need, brother. Coffee tomorrow?" I smiled in the darkness. If Nadia wanted to play hardball, I was ready to show her what a real game looked like. Frank Morrison looked exactly like you'd expect a retired master sergeant to look. Buzz cut going gray, weathered face, shoulders that could carry the world. We met at a truck stop diner outside town, the kind of place where nobody paid attention to other people's conversations. "So your wife's stepping out on you," Frank said, stirring sugar into his coffee. "And you want proof? I want to know everything. Who, what, when, where, how long it's been going on. Everything. This is going to cost you, Tom. I don't work for free, even for old friends." "How much?" $500 a day, plus expenses. Could take a week, could take a month, depending on how careful they're being. I thought about my savings account, the money I'd been setting aside for a new truck. "Do it," Frank nodded. "I'll need photos of both of them. Their schedules, license plate numbers, anything else you can give me." "I can do better than that." I slid a flash drive across the table. "That's got everything. Work schedules, email passwords, credit card statements, phone records. I've been preparing for this conversation." Frank plugged the drive into his laptop and scrolled through the files. "Jesus, Tom, you've been busy. This is some serious intelligence gathering. I learned from the best." "Yeah, you did. Okay, give me a week and I'll have everything you need to know about your wife's extracurricular activities." While Frank worked his magic, I focused on my own transformation. The promotion Derek had given me came with real benefits: a corner office, a company car, and most importantly, respect from people who'd previously treated me like furniture. But the biggest change was at home. Nadia and I barely spoke now, passing each other in the hallway like polite strangers. She'd moved into the guest bedroom, claiming she needed space to think. I didn't mind. The silence was better than the pretense. On Thursday evening, my daughter Emily called from college. She was 20, a junior at State University, studying communications like her mother. "Dad, what's going on? Mom called me crying, saying you're getting divorced." "It's complicated, sweetheart. She said you humiliated her in front of all her friends and coworkers. That doesn't sound like you." I closed my eyes, leaning back in my office chair. Emily was the one good thing that had come out of my marriage to Nadia, and I'd be damned if I was going to poison her against her mother, no matter how much Nadia deserved it. "Your mom and I have been having problems for a while. Sometimes these things just don't work out." "But Dad, Emily, I need you to stay out of this, okay? This is between your mother and me. Don't let it affect your studies, and don't feel like you have to choose sides. I just don't understand why you can't work it out." "Some things can't be fixed, honey. Some things are broken beyond repair." After I hung up, I sat in the dark office, looking out at the parking lot. Nadia had gotten to Emily first, spinning her version of events. That stung more than I'd expected. Friday afternoon, Frank called. "I've got something. Can you meet me tonight?" We met at the same truck stop. Frank spread a collection of photographs across the table like he was dealing cards. "Your wife's been busy," he said. "Tuesday lunch at the Marriott downtown. Wednesday afternoon at his apartment on Elm Street. Today, they went to a cabin on Lake Morrison." The photos were clear and damning. Nadia and Derek holding hands across a restaurant table. Derek's hand on Nadia's A as they walked into his apartment building. The two of them kissing in the parking lot of their lake cabin. "How long?" I asked. "Based on what I can prove, about 6 weeks. But I'm guessing it's been going on longer than that." I studied the photos, feeling strangely detached. Seeing the proof should have hurt more, but mostly I just felt vindicated. My instincts had been right. "There's more," Frank said. "I did some digging on your boss. Derek Hartman's got some interesting financial problems. Seems he's been living beyond his means for a while now. Credit cards maxed out, behind on his mortgage, the works. What does that have to do with anything? Maybe nothing. Or maybe he sees your wife as a meal ticket. She makes good money at that PR firm, right?" I nodded. Nadia made more than I did, actually, which had always been a source of tension between us. "There's something else," Frank continued. "I followed them to the cabin today and set up some long-range surveillance. They weren't alone." He handed me another photo. This one showed Nadia, Derek, and a third person I recognized, Sonia Matthews, Nadia's best friend from work. "Interesting group dynamic," Frank said. "Looked like they were planning something. Lots of serious conversation, documents being passed around." I studied the photo more carefully. Sonia was a sharp-featured brunette with ambitious eyes and a smile that never quite reached them. She'd been to our house for dinner parties, had laughed at my jokes, had seemed like a friend. "I want you to dig deeper on Sonia," I said. "Find out what her connection is to all this. That'll cost extra." "I don't care. I want to know everything." That weekend, I made my own moves. I'd been thinking about what Nadia had said about my expense account irregularities, and I realized she was right. I was vulnerable there. So I decided to fix the problem before it became one. I spent Saturday going through 5 years of expense reports, calculating exactly how much I'd overclaimed in mileage and other expenses. The total came to just over $3,000. On Monday morning, I walked into HR and had a conversation with Linda Martinez, the benefits administrator. "I've been reviewing my old expense reports," I told her, "and I think I've been making some mistakes, claiming mileage for trips I didn't take, that sort of thing. I want to make it right." Linda looked surprised. "That's very honest of you, Tom. Most people wouldn't come forward like this. I don't want there to be any questions about my integrity." I wrote a check for $3,000 on the spot, with a letter explaining that it was reimbursement for inadvertent expense account errors. Linda made copies of everything and filed them in my personnel record. Now, if Nadia tried to use my expense account against me, she'd find that I'd already addressed the issue voluntarily. In fact, it would make me look more honest, not less. That afternoon, Derek stopped by my office. He looked nervous, fidgeting with his tie. "Tom, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be straight with me." "What's on your mind?" "Are you having me followed?" I kept my expression neutral. "Why would I have you followed?" "I don't know, I've been seeing the same car behind me lately." "Probably nothing, but with everything that's been going on." "Derek, I'm focused on my work and my divorce. I don't have time to play private investigator. He relaxed slightly. Right, of course. Sorry, I guess I'm just paranoid. After he left, I called Frank. He's made you. Maybe. I'll switch up my approach, use different vehicles. Don't worry, I'm a professional. How much longer do you need? Give me another week. I'm close to something big. That evening, I stopped by Mickey's gym for my regular workout. Mickey was training a young heavyweight, calling out combinations while the kid worked the speed bag. You're looking better, Mickey said when I finished my routine. Less stressed. I'm sleeping better. Nothing like a clear conscience. You figure out what you're going to do about your situation. I'm gathering information, making plans. Mickey nodded approvingly. Smart. Never throw a punch until you know exactly where you want it to land. As I drove home through the quiet streets of Millbrook, I thought about Mickey's advice. I'd been throwing wild punches for weeks. The party incident, the promotion grab, the financial preemption. But now it was time to get strategic. Frank was right that something big was coming. I could feel it building like a storm on the horizon. And when it hit, I wanted to be ready. Frank's call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing shipping manifests in my corner office. We need to meet now. I've got something that's going to blow your mind. An hour later, we were back at the truck stop diner. Frank looked like he hadn't slept in days, his eyes red-rimmed and intense. I've been following the money, he said, spreading bank statements across the table. Your wife, Derek, and Sonia have been very busy. What kind of busy? The kind that involves opening joint bank accounts and transferring large sums of money. Look at this. He pointed to a series of deposits and withdrawals. 3 weeks ago, Derek liquidated his 401k $47,000. That same day, Sonia transferred $30,000 from her savings account. And your wife, she's been siphoning money from your joint accounts for months. I studied the numbers, feeling sick. How much? From your accounts? About $15,000 so far. But that's not the worst part. Frank pulled out a folder thick with documents. I've got a contact at the county clerk's office. Guess what business license was filed last month? He handed me a certificate. Hartman Bradley Matthews Consulting LLC, filed November 15th with Derek as president. Your wife as vice president and Sonia as secretary-treasurer. What kind of consulting? The kind that doesn't exist yet. This is a shell company, Tom. They're planning something big. I leaned back in the booth, trying to process what I was hearing. You think they're planning to steal from Midwest Logistics? I think they're planning to steal your life. Look at this. Frank showed me a lease agreement. They've rented office space downtown, signed a 2-year lease, first and last month's rent paid in advance, and look who co-signed the lease. My signature was at the bottom of the document, except I'd never seen it before. That's not my signature. No, but it's a damn good forgery. Good enough to fool most people. The pieces were starting to come together. Derek had access to company client lists and financial information. Nadia had connections in the PR world and knowledge of my personal finances. What did Sonia have? What's Sonia's angle in all this? Frank smiled grimly. That's the million-dollar question. Took me 3 days to figure it out, but I finally tracked down someone who used to work with her at Sterling PR. He pulled out his notebook. Turns out Sonia Matthews used to be Sonia Kowalski. Ring any bells? The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Pete's ex-wife? Bingo. She's been planning this for a long time, Tom. This isn't just about your wife cheating. This is about revenge. I remembered now. Pete had been married briefly in his 20s to a woman named Sonia. The marriage had ended badly. Something about her cheating with his business partner and trying to steal his client list. Pete had never talked about it much, but I knew it had left him bitter about relationships for years. She's using Nadia and Derek to get back at Pete through me? That's my theory. She gets your wife to leave you, destroys your marriage, steals your money, and ruins your reputation all at once. It's elegant in a psychotic way. I thought about all the dinner parties where Sonia had sat at my table, laughing at my jokes, complimenting Nadia's cooking, playing the role of the supportive friend, all while planning to destroy my life. What's their end game? Near as I can tell, they're going to wait until after the first of the year, then Derek's going to quit Midwest Logistics and take several major clients with him. Your wife will leave Sterling PR and join their new company. They'll use the client relationships and inside information to undercut both companies. And the forged signature? That ties you to the business legally. If anything goes wrong, if anyone gets sued, you're on the hook. They get the profits, you get the liability. I stared at the documents, feeling a rage so pure it was almost calming. These people had been planning to destroy me for months, maybe years. They'd sat in my house, eaten my food, pretended to be my friends, all while plotting my downfall. I need copies of everything, I said. Already made them. But Tom, you need to be careful here. These people are playing for keeps. If they know you're onto them, they'll accelerate their timeline. Or they'll find a way to eliminate you from the equation entirely. That afternoon, I called Pete and asked him to meet me at Murphy's Diner. When I showed him what Frank had discovered, his face went white. Jesus Christ, Sonia's involved in this? You didn't know? I knew she was working at Sterling PR, but I thought, it's been 15 years since our divorce. I figured she'd moved on. Apparently not. Pete studied the forged signature on the lease agreement. This is good enough to fool a handwriting expert, at least initially. She must have had access to documents with your real signature for months to practice this. Through Nadia. Right, Tom, this is serious. They're not just stealing from you, they're setting you up to take the fall for their crimes. If they succeed, you could be looking at criminal charges. Well, what do you recommend? We go to the police. Tonight. With what? Circumstantial evidence and a theory? They haven't actually done anything illegal yet. Pete was quiet for a moment, thinking, you're right. We need to catch them in the act. Or we need to make them think they've been caught. What do you mean? I smiled, feeling the pieces of a plan clicking into place. It's time to give them something to really worry about. That evening, I came home to find Nadia packing suitcases in the bedroom. Going somewhere? I asked. Sonia invited me to spend a few days at her place. I need some space to think. About what? About whether this marriage is worth saving. I sat down on the bed, watching her fold clothes with precise, angry movements. Is it? She paused, a silk blouse in her hands. I don't know, Tom. I really don't know. Well, while you're thinking about it, maybe you can explain this. I handed her a copy of the business license for Hartman Bradley Matthews Consulting. The color drained from her face. Where did you get this? Does it matter? What matters is that you've been planning to leave me for months, and you've been stealing money to finance your new life. It's not stealing. It's our money. The money you transferred to the business account, that's stealing. The forged signature on the lease, that's fraud. She sat down heavily in the chair by the window. How long have you known? Long enough. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What do you mean? You have a choice. You can come clean, return the money, and we can end this marriage like civilized adults. Or you can keep playing games with Derek and Sonia, and I'll make sure everyone in town knows exactly what kind of people you really are. Nadia looked at me with something that might have been respect. You're not the same man I married. No, I'm not. That man was naive enough to trust people who were planning to destroy him. She finished packing in silence. As she carried her suitcases to the car, she paused in the doorway. This isn't over, Tom. No, I agreed. It's not. After she left, I called Frank. They're going to accelerate their timeline. I need you to watch them around the clock. What did you do? I let them know I was on to them. Now we'll see how they react. That was risky. Sometimes you have to force your opponent to make a move before they're ready. Mickey taught me that. Mickey the boxing trainer? Mickey the strategist. He says the best way to beat someone is to make them fight your fight instead of theirs. And what fight is that? I looked around the empty house, thinking about 15 years of marriage, 15 years of trust and partnership that had been nothing but an illusion. The kind where I don't lose,